Congresswoman Mace, thank you very much for joining us. Listen, your side, the GOP, is like, oh, it's the woke bank. The other side is blaming this 2008 Dodd-Frank tweak or rollback, whatever you want to call it. I mean, can we just wait to get more facts?
Right. It's the politicization of this issue is like choosing between Pepsi and Coke, right? And not actually looking at the facts, not looking at the data. If you looked at the SEC filing for SVB Bank in March, you saw a healthy balance sheet. There was some indication they didn't have a risk manager for 8 months, that management was poor. And then the other thing that we're not talking about is the economy and inflation. If we want to investigate this, let's investigate the Federal Reserve because of the rapid rate hikes that has gone on for a short period of time rather than over a longer extended period of time and letting companies adjust to it. That had a significant impact, not only on SVB, but Signature Bank and potentially others as well. But that's not the conversation we're having today.
No, it's not, because if things happen under certain watches, then the best thing you can do is sort of say, well, it was the previous guy. We get a lot of that anyway, right? It was under that, it was under this. And yeah. I spoke with 4 nonpartisan banking regulatory experts today myself, and none of them really said that the rollback in 2018 made much of a difference, if at all. If anything, the bank probably would have passed the initial stress test because they weren't holding, you know, all this crud we talked about back in 2008. They were holding treasuries, mortgage bonds.
Right. And, you know, the average American, they have to assess risk. They have to make decisions. And our banks should have to assess risk and make the same kind of decisions, the same kind of responsible decisions. That wasn't done here. And the interest rate hikes affected their ability to stay afloat. And that's why they were taken over on Friday. And we were very worried about a ripple effect on Monday. But the FDIC had that fund funded by the banks, not the taxpayer, by the way. And the system so far is working as it should.
What's next here then, Congresswoman? I mean, they got the DOJ involved, you got the SEC involved, you've got this bailout / rescue, whatever you want to call it. And by the way, I'd like to know, what are you calling it? Is this a bailout? I'm not calling it a bailout. I think of a bailout as taxpayer dollars funding an industry for a bailout, but that's not what's happening here. And a lot of folks may not realize the FDIC insured fund that's being used to facilitate the guarantees of the deposits in SVB is not taxpayer money. It was actually put in banks' deposit into that fund and is used for this purposes. And this has happened about 500 times or more since the year 2000. So not that it's common or uncommon, but there is a system in place. The system is working. But what I do worry about are members of Congress or billionaires that are out there that are using their voices and not in a cautionary way. They're not being calm, but being very divisive and showing some hesitation in the market. What we say affects the market, and we need to be calm and measured in the way that we discuss a very serious issue. Oh, I don't know, Congresswoman, when you sort of plugged in, patched in, were you able to hear the previous segment we just did with the Washington Post reporter on Snapchat?
Oh, I'm going to have a conversation with my teenagers tonight, ask them if they've encountered the AI on Snapchat. That is the very first conversation I'm having when my kids get home tonight.
Okay, because I think, and I think many have, and I think that to his point, to Jeff Fowler's very good point, if we could go back in time, we might be able to tweak some stuff in the early days of social media. This is the early days of these chat bots. I mean, you are a member of Congress with immense regulatory authority, assuming you can get both sides to come together. This would seem to be, when I hear that Snapchat's chat bot is giving children, what it thinks are children anyway, advice on how to cover up weed or pot, whatever things, and how to hook up with grown-ups. This would not seem to be a partisan issue, but I don't know anything anymore.
It's not, but any kid under the age of 18 that has access to an internet browser and a search engine can search up anything that they want. I actually am the chairman of Cyber and Tech and Innovation on Oversight. We had our first hearing last week on the subject of AI. It'll be the first of a series of hearings. We had Dr. Eric Schmidt there, an expert from MIT, and a few others to start this conversation, because we have members of Congress that don't know how to log into Zoom or Facebook. And, you know, we're going to be looked to figure out how we go from here. And this is going to develop rapidly, faster than the internet, faster than anything we've ever seen technologically in our lifetime. And it'll be in a flash before our eyes, and things will be changed forever. And we got to be very careful in how we move forward.